family, welcome back to another episode of Financial Freedom. I am your host and accompaniment on this journey, Derek Brown. Look, last week we had Waukesha Stafford, the president of Stafford Construction and Consulting, and she started out as a nurse and literally wound up making a pivot to become the president of a major construction company. She's given back to her community. She's mentored others. But one thing I heard in her story that I thought was pivotal, shameless pun, was the level of mentorship and how important it was to have other people around her that was able to feed into her life. I wanted to come back and talk to her a little bit, and we're going to talk about some of the other endeavors she's been working on too. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for looking for us. You can find us at using our handle at The Hope TV, one word, all caps, at The Hope TV. Let's dig into it. Ladies and gentlemen, Waukesha Stafford.
Hello there, Derek. Hi there.
Look, welcome back for round two. Look, here's the thing. We talked on last show so much about the importance of mentorship and your financial evolution. But it wasn't just your financial evolution. This was you being willing to move into a different sphere, completely out of your comfort zone. But mentorship played a huge role. And we're going to do kind of a brief recap. Was it easy for you to find those mentors, or was it something that you had to consciously go out and look for?
I would definitely say that I had to consciously look for it or look for it in someone. It was one of those ideas that who could actually pour into me, and would they be willing? How do you approach them? So it was those type of things that questions that popped up in my head as I looked. And again, I think, as I told you, my mentor didn't know she was my mentor for quite some time.
Hey.
I just kind of pinched off of her. I always wanted to be in her presence. If she was going to be there, I wanted to be there because I felt like here is someone who could definitely pour into me. And she's walked the walk. She's already down the road. So I definitely want to be in her shadow, so to speak, to be able to learn from her.
Got you. So you stepped into a brand new space and you were teachable. What kept you on that journey with this mentor that didn't even know she was your mentor, coming out of a place that you were actually comfortable in? Because some people, like, I don't know, 1970 African American male in a predominantly male. If I was a black woman in a predominantly male thing, looking for mentorship, and I'm ex-military. I was over here in nursing. I was doing my thing. What encouraged you to stay in that space? I think you mentioned that this was a place that you stumbled upon a passion about.
I think it was a combination of the mentor and just how much she was willing to pour into me. Again, I realized at this point that it was who she was as a person. In addition to my boss being so willing to basically open the door for me, because he opened doors for me. I have to say his name. I didn't say his name last time. His name is Sean. He is an awesome person with a great reputation. And he has a testimony that I kind of clung to, because it's one of those things where you don't find someone who's willing to pour into someone after they've gone through some trials and tribulations. But he so willingly did so. And his actions lined up with his words. And I can appreciate that.
Gotcha. I hear that. So let me ask you this. If I'm in a place, because I went through something similar myself. But you have ascended to levels I certainly have not got to. So when you're pursuing these successful people, what steps did you need to take to get to them? What did you need to put in place to get into their presence, to be able to? Was it a certain mentality? Was it making sure you went to the sports bar when they went to the sports bar? What is it? How did you get into their presence?
Now, Derek, that's one of the things that I can kind of sit up about and tell you that at no time did I have to step outside of myself in the sense of doing or being somewhere that I was uncomfortable being.
Okay.
What I found was I had people who were just willing to plant seeds.
Okay.
It was not a case of um, being somewhere I didn't want to be, but I do
Hmm.
believe it was a case of being humble enough to take the back seat, because I
Mm.
did take the back seat. There were times where there were chairs at the table, but I sat up against the wall.
Okay.
I had to be willing to basically be the fly on the wall and just take in what um, was being poured out.
Okay.
And I was good with that. I was not looking to say, well, I came with Sean or I came with Christy, so I should
Hmm.
be able to sit next to them. I'll be honest, I hadn't earned that seat next to them. So I was
Hmm.
okay with sitting up against the wall. I was okay with standing in the corner uh, because I was there to learn. I was not there to be recognized. And
Gotcha.
I think that's part of our pivoting when it comes to our young people. Our young people have to learn that not everyone falls in that lineup of millionaire overnight. Not
Right.
everyone falls in that realm of becoming the star on Instagram or
Hmm.
uh, other social media platforms.
Hmm.
We sometimes have to stand in the corner and not demand that we sit at the table all the time. And that may just be the 70s, 80s in me that says
Right.
that. But that's
Yeah.
that's that's my upbringing, and I think it worked really well.
I mean, as the president of the company, I think that speaks for itself. But it was your ability to be humble and to be teachable,
Right.
and to be willing to drink in whatever they were willing to pour out.
That's right.
Moving in that space, did you find often that how so some people might say, well, how long do I have to not be acknowledged? How long should I be quiet? Is that something that you determined, or was that the mentorship that these people who were pouring into you determined? And let me ask this: when do I know if I'm being abused and in that space?
I'm going to say that when you know that you are pouring into what has been placed before you, when
Hmm.
you're putting in the work, because I
Okay.
did put in the work.
Right.
There were plenty of days and plenty of nights that I looked over plans and didn't quite understand what I was looking at. There were
Hmm.
moments where I opened up a specification book and read, whether it was the 400-page specification book or the 2,000-page specification book. I read to understand.
Right.
I added to that which was placed before me.
Okay.
And I think as I took advantage of those things that were before me,
Hmm.
the doors opened. The opportunities were placed before you. I didn't have to bogart it. I did put up with, I was challenged at times by um, others in in the industry.
Right.
You're always questioned. I could come in with a suit on and bring a superintendent with me who has a uniform on. They would
Hmm.
address him before they address me.
Wow. Yeah.
But the good thing about it is that I can honestly tell you that my crew, they honor and respect the intelligence that I have, the skill that I have, and the knowledge that I have. And they would quickly kind of straighten those things. And after a while, I did say, "Hey, no need to. I'll take care of it." And so
Right.
you deal with some things, but there's no reason for me to become irate with it.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
I'll
for
share.
you, the acknowledgement came when you as a learner could then begin to start to pour into projects.
That's
When you
right.
began to be able to pour into things, that's when the
Mhm.
acknowledgement began to come. And because you had basically ascended from being a humble learner to someone who could begin to manage something.
That's right.
And that speaks to a lot of patience at times. And then you were willing to sit with stuff and learn on your own. That
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 is
says a
so
lot
true.
about that field. With stuff working against you as is, you're already doing that.
That's
So
right.
acknowledgement came when you were willing to pour into the projects in front of you that you had opportunities to do so.
Today, we're gonna be making a twice baked potato and potato skins.
Meet the scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you!
But I feel fine.
That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
When you began to get into this place of acknowledgement and began to move up, what was your perspective then on new people who were entering the field, having been in that position?
Wow. Well, I have to go back to race.
Okay.
Being a minority in this
Right.
field,
Right.
many times we encountered other minorities
Mm.
who were just starting out.
Okay.
And we realized that they were in places that they needed to pivot. If this
Mm.
is what you want to do, then we need to help you um, stop lingering at the mediocre
Okay.
level
Hmm.
and to actually pivot towards saying, hey, I'm serious about my business. I want you to take me seriously. I want to be able to work with you on this next level that you're on. So we
Hmm.
found ourselves in a position where we could go back and mentor um, very openly others who were in similar, positions we had been in previously.
Hold on one second. Let me ask about that before we get too far into
Okay.
that.
Okay.
How do I know? Right? Because I've been working. I found mentors. I'm in a place now where I've evolved. I'm starting to move forward. I'm pouring into projects. How do I know when I'm at a place that I can mentor other people? Because sometimes I find, especially in my generation and generations after me, especially on social media, everybody's a guru. They ain't done that much yet. They didn't
Right.
sold like a house, maybe two, and all of a
Right.
sudden they're putting classes online. And I'm not knocking them people at all. I admire their ambition, but
Right.
the people like yourself who are well seasoned and have been through these things and have built this huge resume, sometimes I feel like it's hard to find people like you. But when is it that people should be able to say, okay, I'm at this point, I can mentor somebody else?
Derek, that's one of the toughest questions you've asked me. Um, that's a tough one. And I say it's tough because again, we as society right now have made it so easy to have people to believe that
Mhm.
they're ready to give advice to others when they have not actually really walked it and talked it. I think we've heard Pastor give plenty of sermons about new pastors coming in and kind of demanding and stating what they're going to do and how they're going to do it and their place
Mhm.
when you haven't been willing to come in and just serve.
Mhm.
And so I would actually kind of step back if I was talking to my daughter and she said she was looking for a mentor in her field. She's in the pharmacy field. So I would pause and say, where are you looking to go? What is your goal? So if your goal is to own your own pharmacy,
Mm-hmm.
you go to someone who owns their own pharmacy.
Okay.
Please don't go on our wonderful YouTube and and Instagram. Not to say they're not great experts in those areas,
Right.
but go to someone who has been there. And it may take some looking around. It may take some having some conversations. But I think you need to really touch someone who they're in the place you want to be.
Mhm.
That's why the mentor that I had, she was a president of the construction company.
Okay.
That's why I looked to her. It wasn't just about her being a female. She was a president. She's
Mhm.
a heck of a president too. She's but yes, I
I
looked
mean,
for
but that's where you are now. Like you had a
Yeah.
mentor who was a president. Now you're president. That's kind of what you are, right?
Yes, I think it's about going and looking for that person who possesses that position, that level that you're looking to obtain. If you're looking for someone to help you to understand, how to write better papers, are you going to go to your college mate who is in college with you and say, teach me? They can give you some tips, but I'll be honest with you, I want to go to the one who has written the books, the ones who've actually, published not just a handful of papers.
So
Let me go
let
to
me
the
ask you
expert.
this. Let me ask you this, and I forgive me for
Okay.
cutting you off, but this is what I hear you saying. You're really not prepared to be a mentor just because you want to be a mentor, but when mentees qualify your experience.
That's a
Is
good
that
way
fair?
to look at it. That's a good way
Because
to look at
I
it.
hear you saying mentees should come looking for someone who has been there, done that, and can write a book if they need to.
That's right.
But if I'm looking to mentor, I need mentees who qualify my experience and trust my expertise because
That's
they
right.
see that I've done some things.
Yeah. And it's not one something, just like you said, hey, someone sold one house and now they can tell you how the real estate market works. They can give you every up and down and in and out about the real estate market. You sold one house. You're not a broker yet. You have no idea what it means to be a broker and oversee those other realtors that are up under you. I'm a little hesitant on taking your advice. I may listen to
So
you, but
so let's dig into that because you have a whole other side. So you're the president of a construction company, but you also have your own company that helps mentor and financially situate people who are looking to get into the industry. Tell us a little bit about that.
okay. Well, Penn's Bookkeeping, Tax and
Okay.
Administration
Okay.
is the name of the company.
Okay.
My sister and I actually started this company back in 2006. Well, officially started in 2006, but we had started, I want to say right around 2001 is when we actually started helping people. And we
Okay.
made ourselves official because we found ourselves pouring into contractors that were coming in and they were not prepared. They were not prepared to work in the industry at a level that would create or establish them financially.
Okay.
It allowed them, we were trying to help them to come from under the table. We used the term getting paid under the table. And
Right.
that's the way they function and their company functioned that way.
Mhm.
But they found that they were creating issues for themselves. They would work with the company.
Okay.
Company would issue them a 1099. Guess what? They ignored the 1099. So year after year after year, no taxes being filed. That creates a situation. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Money.
Yes, sir. When I say I have enjoyed, painfully enjoyed helping them to really establish a foundation. And so that's kind of what our company did. We started off as simply just helping them administration wise because they did not look nor function like a business. They had the skill. And I
Right.
think we talked, previously, the skill set is usually the thing that motivates them to say, I can go into business for myself.
Right.
But that does not sustain you. It does not sustain you.
So let me ask this before we get too far.
Okay.
One thing that I've heard people say a lot, that is if you fail to, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail.
That's
So
right.
all of my friends who are entrepreneurs are doers. They just go do. Like it's hard to get to wrangle them back. There's been a few times I'm like, yo, Mike, can we talk about the fact that you just started this company like that? Like, I need you to come. Do you have a plan, bruh? Do you know what you're? So it sounds like you're wrangling these people who have the skills, who are willing to do the work, but they don't have a plan. And so how far into that plan do you work with them?
We go beyond getting them on their feet. Most of them actually they stay with us. We do payroll for them. We do the administration work for them. We file their taxes. We make sure their taxes are paid. We send out their 1099s, their W-2s. We do it all. We establish them as a business, first of all.
Right.
We help them. Just because you say you're a business and your name is T-Love T-shirts and things, and that does not make you a business because you went and obtain a business card with a name on it. Okay. We had to help them to understand that, listen, you could go out and you can make $10,000-$20,000 in a couple of months. But guess what? It doesn't matter if it has not been recorded. And what I mean by recorded, that the IRS, our favorite alphabet boys, have not, it hadn't been talked to them and shown to them that you've made this money. It doesn't exist until they catch you. It just does not exist. So we had to help them to understand that it's important that you establish yourself. It's important that you pay the taxes. Why? Because now you're showing that I do have income. So when you're ready to actually go get that nice house because you're making the money, you can go get it. One of the biggest things, and I don't want to get too far ahead, Derek, but one of the biggest things that I found was those that we have helped along the way. When this pandemic hit, they were fine. They were fine because when certain documents were requested, we had them. The 941s, when they asked for them, we had them. Pulled them out, sent them in. No problem for them. I had people who came to me because they knew me. They knew what I did. They came and said, could you help me? I can't because you don't have anything. You don't have a tax return.
Ooh.
There were some, I went and actually did 5 years worth of tax returns.
Ooh,
and I'm going to be honest, it blew me away. He owed over $100,000 because he was making that kind of money. He was making that kind of money, but you just disregarded the process. He disregarded the process. So no PPP loan or anything else, EIDL was not going to help him.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jermaine Dolly, Mr. Hello Dolly himself, and guess what? You're tuned in to Tea and Worship with my homies, Mignon and Corey. Keep it locked, y'all.
Hey y'all, it's Candy West, and you're watching Tea and Worship with Mignon and Corey.
It's your boy James Fortune, and you are watching my favorite news show, Tea and Worship, with my sis Mignon and Corey.
as far as actually being a part of the fraternity versus wanting to be in the fraternity, would you say that your outlook on your environment is different?
Actually being in the organization now, you're exposed to everything.
This is the most serious thing that I have ever been a part of. When we say this is a serious matter, we are not playing.
So let me ask you this, because everybody who you mentor seemed to be okay through the pandemic. How important is it for the average person to have some sort of financial mentor?
Oh, wow. I just think it's huge because it's not something we talk about as much. I think it's becoming more relevant and more prevalent now in the minority families. I'm hoping that we'll go beyond just giving our children a debit card, but to actually help them to understand finances, money coming in, money going out, recording what's coming in and what's going out, because some of that part is just kind of missed. We figure if we hand the child or open a checking account that, hey, we've taught them something. No, because what ends up happening, our children, go along. I have this debit card. It's going to work for me because every time it gets low, mama just puts money in it with no accountability. And I think all of that kind of trickles to an adult where somebody is going to make the account right. Well, it doesn't work that way. So we do need someone speaking into us, helping us to organize ourselves, helping us to understand the importance of recording expenses, to look overall, what are we spending out? One of my big foes right now is eating out. I find myself on the road a little bit more now. And I'll be honest, I have this board. And it's divided by the days of the week. So I notate how much I spend every day on food on this board. Now I did that because I wanted it in my face, because in my face makes it
you can't ignore it at that point.
No. And when that amount gets to a certain point, I'm like, wow, now let me multiply that time 4 and looking at a whole entire month, that shakes me up. But it's the financial responsibility and those who mentored me financially that helped me to understand.
So where did your financial mentorship come from? Were those the same people who was mentoring you in construction, or were those a different set of people who was helping you learn what that was?
I'll say it was a combination of those who were already mentoring me because they were running businesses. One, my boss, real old school. If it's not broke, we don't need a new one. Didn't quite like his mentality.
If it ain't broke, don't buy it. My lungs are fine. I don't need a transplant. It's okay. It's okay.
No. He's that one. If you saw his construction shoes, you would say, man, come on now. Really. If it's not broke, there's no need to do anything to it. That's him. For a long time, and this is my side note, he probably choked me for saying this. All our furniture in our office, we would do base jobs on Robins Air Force Base or Moody Air Force Base, and we would have to dispose of everything in there. Well, a little bit of Fred Sanford, he would bring that stuff back to the office. It was a good desk. We could keep this, and I was like, oh my gosh. We're going to have so many different colors in here. So it's our joke. It's our joke.
But let me ask you this, though. So you have people who are willing to talk to you about this, but how does the average person like myself bring up money to a mentor when so many people are finicky and scared about talking about money? Especially, it seems like the more they have of it, the less they want to talk about it, especially how they manage it.
And I guess I've experienced something very opposite of that. Those who were in business have been more than willing to share, to sit down and talk. Christy, my mentor, her company is employee owned. They actually shift the makeup of it.
Okay.
And so I asked her, well, how does that work? Help me to understand, what does that mean? How do you make decisions? Do we buy a fleet of trucks, or do we just allow our employees to use their own vehicles and give them an allowance? So I just started to ask questions. But again, these were people who were willingly kind of open, right spirit. I think those who don't want to share, those may be the ones you may not want to share with you. You want to look for someone who has the right spirit. They're not afraid of your success. I just think those who withhold tend to withhold because they're not sure how long they're going to have it, or they're afraid that you're going to counteract something that they do have. Again, that's me from a spiritual standpoint. I just believe that what's for you is for you. And your mentors, when you have those who are truly there to help you go to that next level, they're going to pour everything that they have. They're going to introduce you to everyone that you need to be introduced to. They're not afraid of bringing you to the table. My mentors.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I just didn't find that they hesitated on opening doors for me. And I know that others have experienced something very different. But I guess the question I would pose is, what made you choose that mentor? I can go back to a spiritual side and say, did you pray about it? Did you ask God for the mentor? And so that's what I've found myself doing whenever there's a need, or whenever I'm needing to make decisions, especially about my life and knowing that it's going to impact my family. I have to pause and say, no, what is it that you would have me to do? And he's always placed the right people in my life. And those that were not supposed to be there, most of them left on their own, Derek.
Really?
Most of them left on their own, even down to
were there any traits of these mentors that weren't supposed to be there that we might be able to look for when we look for our own?
Oh, yeah. Those who tend to...
Give us 3 to 5. We ain't got to do a whole lot. 3 to 5.
It doesn't
because you were like, oh, yeah,
like
I got that one.
I'll tell you. I just found, Derek, that some of them tended to have a negative connotation sometimes when it came to your thinking. You're thinking and you're pouring things out. They tended to always kind of slide something in there on you. And most of the time we dismiss it because we're so focused on the other things that they've said. Well, I did this and I did that, as opposed to saying, one of the things I would encourage you to do, or, hey, I have some information I can give you. I think the willingness to open up says that just may be the right fit. If you find that they're hesitant on opening up, on introducing you, on bringing you along, there may be some hesitation by them because the potential probably really is there in you, and they feel like you can take something that they have. The person who's for you wants you to surpass. My boss has always said that. You have it. You're going to do great. Always spoke. He says, I can see you doing, and he would just list things out. My mentor says, I don't know where you get the energy from, but hey, you're doing it. They were constantly pouring in, speaking life into me when I am a lot of times at my weariest moment. So we need to be mindful of the words that are being spoken by our mentors and how they're speaking. Don't get me wrong. You will find that there are moments where they have to say some things to you that doesn't feel comfortable.
Okay.
Saying, hey, you're not serious. If you're going to do this, no different than me studying for the general contractor's license test. If you're going to do this, go register now. Did you buy the books? I'm getting them, and the more I procrastinated, they were mad because I wasn't doing. They were not mad because, she went out and bought all these books and she did X, Y, Z, and she's taking time to study. That stuff never crossed their mind. It was always the push for me to succeed, for me to go to the next level.
So mentors who are for you, who are not for you, may look like people who are afraid to let you have a seat or to shadow them, afraid to open up, lack of communication, lack of encouragement, inability to see a future for you, doing more, and unwillingness to bring you along to show you how it works. That's not bad advice. It's not bad advice. So give us 3 things, and you've already kind of said this already, but I'm gonna do it again anyway. Shameless plug for the company, Penn. Give us 3 things that Penn does for their clients when they come see them.
The first thing we do is establish them as a company by the state. Number 2, we set them up so that they can track their expenses, complete payroll legitimately, complete payroll. We make sure their taxes are paid. And lastly, we make sure that, hey, they have all of the administration part of their business in an organized fashion. I know that sounds so simple, but do you know that is really hard for some people when they're used to just taking a piece of paper and throwing it in a box, and then they bring it to a CPA or tax preparer and say, here. We just make sure that everything is lined up from them from the very beginning. Establish you, making sure that you are going to be able to actually receive the credit from paying the people that you pay. If not, you're paying their taxes. And that's when you say that to some people, say you're paying their taxes, that's enough to make them sit up. That's the same thing that happened to the gentleman I told you about. All the money and all that he paid. That was the case. He couldn't go back with any of them because he didn't have any paperwork saying that he actually had paid him. He paid him cash.
Look, I love the fact that you went back and provided the thing that you needed yourself when you were coming through the industry. I love that. A lot of people kind of get to a certain place and all of a sudden they're too busy. They don't have time to provide mentorship, help, or assistance. And not only have you done that, you created a second business to help people do that in a formal fashion, but you've also made yourself available as a mentor for young girls that want to get into construction for free as a volunteer. So that knowledge is also there. There are some times in which I've even experienced myself. I can't seem to get a hold of the person that I want. So I pray about it, and sometimes God will bring me some other person that I need. So, sometimes we're looking for certain people, but we have to be patient enough to see them. And you've made yourself available to be seen. So thank you so much for that and all that you have done. Thank you for being here. Time is valuable, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Derek. I've always told you you're awesome. I'm waiting. We're going to go public, majorly public. We're going to tap on NBC and Fox and everything else, okay?
Come on now, NBC.
I'm going to go ahead and speak it. We're going there. But it's been great.
Thank you so much for you and for your compliments. Thank you. For our ladies and gentlemen, to our audience who are watching, thank you for tuning in. This has been Waikisha Stafford. Wait a minute. Where can we find Penn at? Give us a website.
Matter of fact, at pennsbookkeeping.com.
There you go. pennsbookkeeping.com. You can find a sliver of her awesomeness that she's put in the form of a business. So that's wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on Financial Freedom. I hope you enjoyed it and all this wisdom she poured out. Thank you for joining. And as always, be safe out there.
Thank you.
you.